I want to talk about Eddie Hinton for a minute.
It's like a lot of times is the case. You don't think that much about somebody until they're gone. But Eddie was just a genius, and he was a little nuts. And that kind of sometimes that helps. Some of the most talented people I've ever known have been crazy as hell. And Eddie, I could just keep naming little crazy things he'd do. When we were riding to and from gigs, the band, we wouldn't carpool with Eddie. We wouldn't ride in the same car with Eddie. He'd scream all the way. We'd be driving from Tuscaloosa to say Auburn to do a gig. He'd scream every mile of the way. And there's nothing quite like sitting in the car with somebody screaming. He said, man, he was getting his voice in shape for the night. He wanted to get it tore up. And when he passed away, his voice was just shattered, and it sounded great. It had that busted speaker sound.
Oh, it had an edge. I was a late bloomer on Eddie Hinton. I've heard you talk about him through the years, but only a few years ago did I kind of discover him for myself. And I was like, wow, the powerhouse this guy had. The Shout Bama Lama that Willie did later on. Great cut of that on his.
Interesting thing is, as I said, I played guitar and then half guitar and keyboard. I got in a band with Eddie, and we started working up a thing with twin guitars and harmony guitars and stuff. And so when Eddie left us and went to doing the session work, Duane and I got together. I said, Duane, hey, man, check this out. Me and Eddie Hinton used to work this up, and there was a song called Dimples that me and Eddie used to do. Look, we used to do this guitar part here, and I'll do this. And he said, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. Of course. And there were several tunes we'd do like that. It was carried over from Eddie Hinton.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, later, about a year or two later, he and Dickie took that idea and went to the moon with it,
What a great idea.
It's funny, though, how little ideas like that can lead to bigger things,
Well, speaking of Eddie Hinton, when I was a teenager, I had a little teenage band, garage band. We played around here, high schools and stuff. My keyboard player, who's a doctor now in Mississippi, Conrad Anderson. Anyhow, I found out only a couple of years ago that he was taking music lessons from Eddie Hinton the whole time. Eddie was renting a house from his mom, and sometimes if he was a little late on the rent, they made a deal where he taught him music theory, and he's a pretty trained musician and taught him music theory.
He trained himself. He never had one bit of formal. He didn't have as many music lessons as I did.
And Conrad said he made him learn all these, all the things and taught him to be a great musician. And I never knew that until a couple of years ago. Eddie Hinton, what a jewel be discovered. Listen to some of his vocal tracks.
He was something else. And, there's some funny stories about Eddie, and he went from being first class, first chair, top notch session guitar player in Muscle Shoals to practically sleeping on park benches. Just something snapped in there, and he maintained all of his talent the whole time, but something snapped in there. And I don't know if you know the one story I can kind of relate, and maybe Eddie won't mind too bad. There's an actor named Dean Jones, and he was in a lot of Disney movies. He was in the Love Bug movies. I don't know if that's ringing a bell, who he is. Anyway, he was originally from Decatur, Alabama. And Eddie was staying up there in Decatur and with Johnny Weicker. And he heard Dean Jones was in town and found out what hotel he was staying in. And so Eddie's, he's walking most places he goes, and he's carrying a staff with him. And he had all this intricate carving and voodoo-looking stuff on it. And he comes by the hotel, Dean Jones Hotel, and he walks in the lobby, and he was innocent as he could be. But he said, "I'm looking for Dean Jones, and I've got this stick for him." And they didn't quite take that, and they called the police, and he wound up in jail. What it was, his cane staff, he had done all these carvings, and he wanted to give it to him as a gift. I'm looking for Dean Jones. And he looked pretty rough. He'd probably been sleeping outdoors, and said, "I got this stick for him." But he was full of little things like that. He went from driving a new Lincoln Continental and playing sessions for Jerry Wexler to giving sticks to Dean Jones,
Yeah. I saw a commercial that he did later in life where he's promoting his solo record he recorded. And it's got the 3-minute miracle Aussie shampoo. He said a little lady in Alabama hand makes it. Anyhow, what an eccentric personality for sure, Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie Hinton.
He could sound. He was a white Otis Redding. He could sing just like Otis. He could. He tried his whole career, and he finally got that down.
Well, I heard a story that Duane Allman asked him to be the first person to join what would be the Allman Brothers band when he was given the green light to put a band together, and he turned him down.
Well, I know the time. I don't know the instance, but at the time that happened, Eddie was already doing sessions in Muscle Shoals, and Duane went up. The Hourglass broke up. Duane went directly to Muscle Shoals, started doing sessions, and he moved in and they shared a place shared a house, apartment, or whatever with Eddie. So from Duane went directly from that. Duane could not be restrained enough to be a session player. He was too free will. He had to take a band and just go with it. He couldn't be told what to play. You couldn't do anything with him.
Hi, Chris Hicks here from the Southern Rock Insider. I'd like for you to hit this button right here and subscribe to our channel for all the latest updates and content. The Southern Rock Insider.